Hello everyone and welcome to my art channel where we do painting tutorials. Today I have some easy watercolor scenery on canvas and I start by adding a drop of clean water onto my watercolor paints. That way they have time to activate and they're just going to be more vibrant. I'm using an artist canvas panel, which is a cheap alternative to your normal wooden canvases. You usually get these in packs of 3 or 5 for a very affordable price. This specific one right here is meant for acrylics, and as far as I can tell, it has not been primed nor gessoed. It does not say that on the packaging, and I proceed to cover it entirely with some water with my big fluffy brush. Alternatively, feel free to use a mistifier, a spray bottle you would typically use for watering your plants. And while the background is wet, I start by applying some cerulean blue on the top right corner and a bit about 3-4 centimeters up from the bottom. Then I take my azo yellow deep and I cover the bottom side of the white spaces with it. Then I clean my brush and I get my red, which I apply on the top sections of the white areas, aka on top of the yellow and beneath the blue. I was using Lake Matter Deep for this, but I was running short on that color and was difficult to get, so I just immediately switched to my quinacridone Rose, which is my favorite red watercolor paint to use for mixing and on-roll painting. I find it very versatile and it's a light, fast red shade, which is hard to come by. I add some cerulean blue on the top side of the red sections. That way the quinacridone rose mixes with it and gives me this very nice lavender tone, which I spread to the other areas I painted first with cerulean. Then I take my rose color with some azo yellow to make a nice muted orange and I paint the bottom of my clouds, aka the areas where I first placed the yellow. I'm going to be building about 3 layers on this painting because watercolors tend to dry much lighter than when you're applying them when they're wet, so it's a good rule of thumb to make them way more saturated than you intend and just build up layers. Especially if you use a lot of water when painting, then they're even going to dry lighter than you had thought of. And also an interesting thing when you're on a canvas is the watercolor does not really spread, it does not bleed loosely onto the wet areas. It tends to stay where you put and you need to move it around with your brush if you want it to spread equally. That also comes into hand to us because you saw me put some blue, then some yellow, then some red, and the colors did not bleed into each other. You don't get any green areas. They stay put, which is very useful. And I'm not leaving this painting to dry. I'm just working layer after layer without any dry time because, like I said, they stay put. I have mixed some quinacridone rose with some cerulean blue and I add a second layer of this lavender mix on the top side of my clouds to darken it up because I want the sunlight to be coming somewhere from behind, somewhere from the bottom, and it's hitting only the bottom of the clouds so the top stay in the shadow. It's maybe an evening scene, maybe it's a sunrise, I don't know, but that is my intention for this painting. Then again I take my quinacridone rose with my cerulean blue and I do a third layer on top. I'm using very loose brush strokes with a big fluffy brush. The bigger the brush, the looser the painting is going to look, and since it's clouds, I think this is the best way to achieve that fluffy cotton candy cloud look. So big circular motions, random taps, no pointiness, make sure to smooth it out. Then I add another layer on top of my yellows just some azo yellow dip straight from the half pan, and I place it beneath the clouds. You can dilute and spread the paint upwards as to not get a harsh edge with just a damp brush. And if you get any weird lines or areas you don't like, you can reactivate them and work on top of them without any issues typically. Then I get some of my rose color and I apply it to the middle section in each cloud, repeating the layer I did previously, and just keep on building. While the red is still wet, I take some cerulean blue straight from my tin and I apply it on top on the edges of the clouds to get a more saturated lavender purple color. I try to keep it a bit away from the yellow because purple and yellow make gray/dark brown, and blue and yellow obviously make green, and you don't usually see green clouds, so that's why I avoid it and I only place it on top of the red. I do little circular motions with my brush to swoosh it around to get some of the red because it's still wet and sitting on top of the canvas. You can say I'm directly mixing on the canvas instead of using my tiny palette, and just scrubbing around to get some loose shapes. Lastly, I mix all three of my colors together, the yellow, the rose, and the blue. Alternatively, feel free to use something like lamp black or Payne's gray or indigo. Here's a little art tip: if you need to paint some details, like tiny details with a big brush like this, take a paper towel or some toilet paper and absorb the water on the bristles of the brush. They're closest to the barrel, closest to the handle, and just leave the tip wet. That way you get that nice, fine, almost calligraphy-like brush stroke. And with that, I paint some birdies in the sky in a straight line. If you cannot draw, there is a traceable available over at my Patreon page, Sunshine Arts, and by doing so you also help support me and the channel. And like always, all of the supplies used and the reference picture will be linked down below. I'd like to give a very special thank you to my Patreons for the month of January, and thank you all for watching. If you found any value in this video, please let me know by liking, commenting, and subscribing. We'll see each other in the next video. Bye bye!